Once again, the word Islamophobia is being thrown around, this time after MP Rupert Lowe delivered what many are calling one of the most powerful speeches heard in Parliament this year. Lowe stood up and said what countless ordinary Britons have been thinking, but are too often afraid to say. The United Kingdom cannot continue to house and fund people who entered the country illegally. His message was clear, direct, and unapologetic. Mass deportations will save Britain. We'll dive into this story in today's video, but before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Right now, only 12% of viewers are subscribed, so join the community and help us grow. And yet, instead of debating the issue honestly, critics, including some Muslim groups, immediately cried Islamophobia, attempting to shut down discussion before it even began. But let's be honest, calling for the enforcement of immigration law isn't racist, and it isn't anti-Muslim. It's about restoring fairness, sovereignty, and the rule of law in a country that's been taken advantage of for far too long. Rupert Lowe's speech wasn't hateful, it was honest. He spoke for the silent majority who are tired of seeing resources drained, laws ignored, and communities overwhelmed while the political elite look the other way. For years, politicians have dodged this issue, terrified of being labelled or cancelled. But Lowe didn't flinch. He told Parliament the truth, that Britain needs to take back control of its borders and send those here illegally back to where they came from. And for that, he's being attacked. But maybe that tells you everything you need to know about how out of touch our political establishment really is. Here's the moment Rupert Lowe said it. Calmly, directly, and with courage. Roll the clip. Have a watch.
Will the Leader of the House make time for a debate on mass deportations, given its extraordinary level of public support, and ensure that this House has the opportunity to debate not just the moral imperative, but the legal and operational reforms required, including secure detention facilities, bilateral returns agreements, foreign aid suspensions, remittance taxes, visa cancellations, the introduction of a true hostile environment, and plenty more, all in order to deliver the mass deportation of every last illegal migrant at scale and pace?
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm tempted to give the answer that one of my predecessors, Ted Short, gave, which is to say no. However, I'm not going to do that because these are important matters. I made very clear in my opening remarks that I regard my role in this House as respecting the views of members and making opportunities for members to debate those, even if they are, I have to say, abhorrent views. He knows, he's been here long enough, he knows that there are many ways in which these matters can be raised. He's just done it now. I'm resisting the temptation to go down the track of reciting the very important work that this government is doing. But if he does seek a debate on these matters in the usual way, then perhaps he'll be successful.
Rupert Lowe said what needed to be said. He spoke the truth that too many in Westminster refuse to acknowledge, that Britain's borders must mean something and our laws must be enforced without apology. This isn't about race or religion, it's about respect. Respect for the British taxpayer, for our communities, and for the rule of law. When we allow illegal migration to continue unchecked, we send the message that laws don't matter and that those who follow the rules come second. For far too long, ordinary Britons have been ignored while the political class hides behind empty labels like Islamophobia to silence debate. But that tactic doesn't work anymore. People are waking up and they're demanding action. Rupert Lowe had the courage to say what millions are thinking. Now the question is, will the government have the courage to act? Sir Keir Starmer has promised that the National Inquiry into the rape gangs will investigate why heinous crimes were disproportionately committed by Asian men. In a letter signed by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir thanked the panel for its support for the National Inquiry. He assured survivors that the inquiry will look explicitly at the ethnicity of the criminals. Sir Keir also wrote that survivors must be at the heart of this inquiry and offered his personal commitment to make the inquiry successful. In the full letter, Sir Keir said, Dear all, I wanted to reach out directly to thank you for being part of the expert panel and supporting us to set up the national inquiry into grooming gangs. The heinous crimes committed against you and many others by violent and depraved gangs were truly appalling. We know that in some areas these crimes were disproportionately committed by Asian men, and I assure you that the inquiry will look explicitly at that. You were also let down catastrophically by the institutions that should have protected you, and they must be held accountable. We are determined that survivors must be at the heart of this inquiry, and do not underestimate the bravery you have shown by reliving these ordeals. I wanted to offer my personal commitment to you in getting the inquiry right. Thank you for your continued engagement and support in this vital work. Your views and lived experience are not only valued, they are absolutely central to shaping the direction, integrity, and impact of this inquiry. Reports and investigations into historical grooming gang cases identified that perpetrators often have a disproportionate representation from specific ethnic groups, most notably men from British Pakistani heritage. A review led by Baroness Louise Casey into the rape gang scandal admitted there was a denial in collecting the ethnicity of those involved. In her review, Casey laid out a series of recommendations, including making it mandatory to collect the ethnicity and nationality of all suspects in child sexual abuse and criminal exploitation cases, and working with the police to improve the collection of ethnicity data for victims. The Baroness explained that not collecting the data does no one in the Muslim and Pakistani community a service. Recent turmoil has led to significant delays in the inquiry, which is expected to take months to restart. Both candidates to head the inquiry, Jim Gamble, a former police officer and the lead candidate, and Annie Hudson, a former director of children's services for Lambeth Council, have pulled out after some survivors criticized their professional backgrounds. Despite both candidates having had careers tackling child abuse, campaigners and survivors have argued that the police and social workers were responsible for letting down victims and believe someone with a legal background should lead the inquiry. There are currently no candidates in the running, causing delays to the inquiry. 4 panelists, Eliane Reynolds, Fiona Goddard, Elizabeth Harper, and a woman signed only as Jessica, quit in a letter that set conditions for their return. The conditions include Jess Phillips standing down, the inquiry being laser-focused on grooming gangs, and its chair being a former or sitting judge. They criticized Ms. Phillips for labeling some of their claims about the scope of the inquiry being widened untrue, and said they had provided evidence to the contrary. However, other victims have threatened to walk away from the advisory panel if Ms. Phillips is ousted. A government spokesman said, "The grooming gang scandal was one of the darkest moments in this country's history. That is why this government is committed to a full, statutory, national inquiry to uncover the truth. It is the very least that the victims and survivors of these hideous crimes deserve. The Home Secretary has been clear. There will be no hiding place for those who abuse the most vulnerable in our society." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you have not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.